Welcome to the Value Pros Show, where value pros get value ready. My name is Bruce Scheer, the host of the Value Pros Show. In this episode, we're talking with Kaye Miller, a sales expert, speaker, and co-author of a book I just love called Uncopyable You. Kaye is known for helping professionals build personal brands that stand out, and more importantly, create memorable and high-value buying experiences that keep customers coming back. Kaye will share how you can build trust, engage buyers in a way that feels natural, not salesy, and create an uncopyable buying experience that turns prospects into lifelong customers. Let's get into it. Okay, thanks so much for joining the Value Pro Show. It's so happy to have you here. And I must admit, I bought your book a few months ago, read it, loved it. And then over this last weekend, I was just reading it pretty much the whole weekend, just getting ready for this interview. I didn't want to blow it because I've got the Uncopyable Kaye here with me and just wanted to make sure this thing rocks. So anyways, because of that, I literally started redoing my whole personal brand statement. Well, what a wonderful thing. So for everybody tuning in, Kaye Miller and her husband, Steve Miller, wrote this book called Uncopyable You. I absolutely love it. Just the title of it, Uncopyable. What a big idea. How do you stand apart from the pack, but in a way that's uncopyable? Again, lovely theme, and the book's just a dream. Really well written. Not their first rodeo. Speaking of rodeos, you can see me on Vashon Island this morning wearing a cowboy hat. I was out moose hunting a little bit, and that's one of the metaphors that they use in their book, which I absolutely love. Hunting that moose and building your personal brand, and probably even more importantly, your personal brand strategy, how you're going to take action around that, and really landing with your moose, i.e. your ideal customer profile. So I really loved that. Kaye, before we jump in and get your point of view, I wanted to highlight for the audience 3 key statistics that just kind of blow me away. If anybody's seen the movie Apollo 13, Houston, we do have a problem. And the first stat is 75%. 75% of B2B buyers, according to Gartner, a big survey they did, prefer to have a sales-free experience. Wow, that sales-free, that's no good. That means not a good buying experience. 88% of those buyers, this is in a Salesforce.com state of sales survey, an annual survey with thousands of buyers. 88% of B2B buyers will only buy from someone they deem to be a trusted advisor, meaning they gain trust and they bring advice as part of that buying experience. Really important. And very few kind of are at that bar. Again, that nasty 75% is kind of hard to run from that. And then the third stat is, and this one was done with a study by SBI, another super credible source. But what they determined through their survey was 59% of the buying influence on the buying decision comes from the buying experience, not from the offering itself. So buying experience is key. That's the leading indicator, to, your win rate, your deal cycles, everything going well, getting bonus checks, commissions, etc. The whole party really begins with creating this amazing buying experience. And right now, it's broken. So my firm, we've invested a lot of time, energy, and money in figuring out, hey, what do we do to right-size this buying experience? We created the first of its kind, a B2B buying experience index. And in that, we're looking across the buying journey. What are the causal factors that you need to influence to drive an enhanced buying experience? One, to use Kaye's phrase, uncopyable buying experience. How do you do that? How do you create a high-value buying experience? And Kaye, thanks for your patience, but I want to turn the floor to you. What do we do here? First, why do you want to create an uncopyable buying experience? And then how do we do it? So over to you, Kaye. Sorry to be this one-way train. Let's shine the spotlight on you.
That's right. I love the spotlight, actually. And Bruce, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on the podcast. I have to say, it's been really fun to get to know you. It turns out that we have some things in common. We live in the Seattle area, and both of us got snow this morning, which is pretty unusual. So that's kind of cool. I know a lot of people that you know because my husband Steve has been involved in NSA, National Speakers Association. Shep Hyken, a friend of ours, you're also inviting to speak. So I'm going to say thank you for inviting me. I'm going to give your book a little plug too, which I have,
Woo!
if you can
Yeah.
see this, Inspire Your Buyers. And one thing I like about this book, before I jump into the Uncopyable philosophy, is that people don't like to be sold. In fact, in my sales book, I have a sales book, I tell a story of my niece. And when she was about 3, my mom would take care of her every Wednesday, I think it was. Every Wednesday, she was, just helping my sister-in-law out. And one time she told Shauna, my niece Shauna, you need to pick up your toys because we're going to go to the store. And Shauna crossed her arms and said, I don't like to be told. And I love that because we don't like to be sold. So the fact that
Yeah.
you frame your book around the buyer, getting them to buy, not feeling like they've been sold, that is so critical. I did take a few notes while you were speaking. You were dominating the conversation.
Of
Just
course.
kidding. Just kidding. But you have in your book a go-to market narrative. And one thing that I like that you said is deceptively simple. And that's the thing about sales. I think we make it way too complicated. This is a human to human interaction. And really, it's pretty shocking about the statistic about how many buyers don't even want to deal with a salesperson.
Yeah.
That
Hey, one thing you didn't include there, Kay, on that one, deceptively simple. But in that book, I do highlight after that one more phrase, but mastered by few. I rarely see that happen in the wilds. But anyways, I'll leave us on that cliffhanger. Back over to you.
No, that's okay because, I just pulled that little excerpt and yes, you have an entire framework in the book and that's, maybe it doesn't seem quite so simple, but at its core, it's a human to human interaction. So
Yes.
when buyers say, I don't want to deal with a salesperson, well, where are they getting their information? And as Bruce, as you know, I'm suffering from some vertigo, which is making it difficult to do everything from skiing to walking around my house. So what
Mm-hmm.
did I do? I go online. I asked AI, and I was pretty convinced that I had a brain tumor because we can all get information online, but is it accurate? Does it apply to us? Is it just making us scared? So what you can get online is so incomplete that a buyer is really doing themselves a disservice by not dealing with a salesperson.
I'll tell you. True. Yep. Hey, just a quick one on that. I was doing some work building a story that sizzles like what's in that book for eBay Enterprise. And they had a whole huge automotive division selling cars online. And I asked them, because I want to, normally when I start a project, I want to talk with who's doing things right and how can we learn from that and repeat that and have more consistent results. So they said, Bruce, our number one seller of automobiles on eBay is out in Atlanta. They're called Lexus of Atlanta. I go, oh man, I want to talk to those guys, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll set it up. So I talked to the principals of that, 3 of those guys. I just called in. They were in their office. I'm like going, guys, I need to understand, what's the magic here? What are you guys doing? And one thing I did ask them was, of the people that show up after purchasing their car, how many people drive away with the same car that they purchased online? And Kay, these guys buy the car on eBay, they book a flight, they fly all the way to Atlanta. Lexus of Atlanta happens to be right on the train line from the airport. There's a train. So they take the train to there to pick up the keys to their car so they can drive it home. That's it. They've already bought the car, contract signed, blah, blah, blah. It's already done. How many people do you think drive away with the car that they purchased?
That exact model, I'm guessing not all of them for sure. That'll be my first guess. Not all of them. I don't know what the percentage is, but I also have a related story. And I would say in the example that comes to mind, maybe 50%.
Okay,
What is the
great
stat?
gas, great gas. Yeah, the statistic they gave me was 80%. So roughly 4
Okay.
out of 5 people drive away with what they paid for. Contract's already signed. They just need the key. It's done, and it's ready for them to go. But 1 out of 5, when the sellers talk to them, they flip them. And why is that? They'll always go, "Hey, wow, that's a sweet looking sports car that you bought. Congratulations. Tell me a little bit more about your world." And they're like, going, "Well, I got the kids and everything. I wanted this for fun." Ooh, but what about those soccer matches you need to take kids with and their friends? Hey, guess what? There's actually a minivan that we have here, but it's got the sports package. So you could still look cool and take your kids to the soccer games. What do you think? Damn, I think my wife would be happy with that. Boom, they're driving with a sports package with a minivan versus the sports car that came to drive away. But that's the magic of having a beautiful seller. They can see things that you don't see, highlight the obvious or the unobvious, and help get that right fit. There's a role in place for sellers. I'll promise you that. But sadly, 75% of buyers don't want to be dealing with them.
Right. And it's because they've had bad experiences, and we've all had bad experiences. Interesting that you bring up automobiles, cars, because the phrase used car salesman. Usually they say used car salesman, but now it's really used car salesperson.
Person, yeah.
And and so since we're talking vehicles, I tell a story in the book about a woman named Katie O'Neill. Now she brands herself as Katie RV O'Neill. She
Oh,
has
yeah.
claimed that. You remember that?
Yep, I do remember that
And
story.
right. So if you search for Katie RV O'Neill, she will come up. There are so many things that she does right that I can't get into all of it, but I'm going to address what you said. And that is that people don't know what they want. They
Yeah.
think they know what they want, but they're not the expert. And I was just listening to my podcast interview with her. I don't unfortunately remember the episode, but look her up on the podcast. That is a master course in sales. So she, first of all, talks about her moose. Now, her moose, as we say in the framework, and if you're looking, I have a big picture of a moose. That's what we call
Yep.
your
And I went moose
ideal.
hunting, just FYI. Yeah.
In the snow, in the snow. Um, so the moose, or avatar ideal target, uh, really determines who you're wanting to impress so that they will want to buy. Well, one thing that was very interesting is that she said her first job is to sell the husband. So this is kind of sexist, but a lot of home purchases, a lot of decisions to buy are made by the women in a couple's situation. I don't know about you, Bruce. Does your wife make the decisions a lot of time?
Oh, sadly, yeah. Or I mean, sadly, it's probably me. But yeah, I don't know. We do a good job of sharing decisions. Yeah.
Yes. So her job, a lot of times, she does videos, and she's got hundreds of videos online. She walks through these RVs. Now, I should clarify that these are RVs that go from $500,000 to maybe $1.52 million. So these aren't your, the RV that you see on the road that you can rent that say, we're having fun. Call this number so you can rent this RV.
Yeah.
No, these are luxury automobiles. So a lot of times she said the men will watch these videos and really study them. But then the true moose, the one that she has to convince, persuade, is often the woman. So they come into the dealership, for example, and like you said, they've watched videos online. They think that they want this type of RV. But Katie does a great job, as you alluded to, about asking not just what you like and not telling about the fuel capacity or, how the sewage works. None of that. She talks about the RV from the inside out. And all her questions are just what you said. What's your lifestyle? Who's going to be in this RV? Do you like to play board games or do you like to go hunt venison and you want a place to store your half of venison or whatever.
Mhm.
Do you want to know where your curling iron is? What kind of music do you like? Just everything. How are you using this RV? So she asks questions, a lot of questions that they haven't thought of.
Mhm.
And oftentimes, to your point, they say they want this RV. And once she really talks to them, she said, I never take them out to the lot till I have this very in-depth conversation.
Hmm.
And then they go out to the lot and she shows them the models that they are interested in. And one thing she does is she watches their reaction. What do you think when you see these dark cabinets or whatever the layout? So
Yeah.
she calls it exposure sales. So she watches and studies their reactions
Mhm.
because, again, the buyer doesn't have the information. They are not the expert. They need a guide.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Back to our buying experience index. Oh my gosh, she's really hitting on a number of these things, but gaining trust by being a great listener and discussing what they desire, et cetera. I love that exposure selling that you talked about. That really gets into for really clarifying requirements. And again, she just sounds like a fabulous listener, both eyes and ears, if you would, in terms of what's lighting somebody up and what's going to bring them joy in their life. Yeah, great story. Perfect.
It is great, and again, I encourage you listening to get that book because
Yeah.
that is just the tip of the iceberg. Before she owns RVs, and that's one thing that she recommends. She recommends that if you're gonna sell RVs, you should have an RV. So she's
Yeah.
very, very knowledgeable. She knows her stuff,
Mm.
and when she dealt with someone, she found videos online, she called him, he never called back. And trust to me is being brilliant at the basics. And
Mm.
I'm sure
Mm.
you've experienced this, Bruce. You call someone back and they say, Hey, thanks for calling me back. And you're like, Are you kidding? Is that how low the bar is
Pretty much. Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
establishing trust?
I'm trying to buy from a seller right now, and yeah, it's weeks apart when we talk. It's the most bizarre thing in my life. I'm talking to his CEO more than him at this point in time. Yeah, but yeah,
Right.
the
And
bar's low, and yeah, and there's some serious reasons, like we talked about, to be uncopyable. In relation to improving that buying experience. So I love this vein that we got ourselves into. Okay, this is absolutely perfect. So I think we've probably hit on some of the why. It's your opportunity to stand apart and offering an awesome buying experience. If you do that, you're going to sell more and sell more often, obviously, and probably have more joy and better relationships with the buyers who buy from you. If we could, Kay, let's turn the corner a little bit and just get into some of the how to think about this. If you want to, create this uncopyable buying experience, what advice would you give to our audience?
well, one of the things that we like to say, my husband Steve and I, and Steve co-wrote this book with me, is that oftentimes, almost all the time, a product or service can be copied unless it's patented or unless it's, so brilliant that no one can replicate it. Most of what we're selling is copyable. So,
Hmm.
first of all, I really recommend that you clarify what your personal branding promise is. Now,
Yeah.
Katie, I'm going to bring her back into the picture because she tells people her personal branding statement. I do that as well. Her branding statement is I want everyone who walks through these doors. I want everyone who walks through these doors to be better for the experience. So when you tell someone, I promise you that this is what I want to do for you, I will not sell you the wrong product. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want you to be unhappy. So one of the branding strategies is to define, and the book takes you through that whole process of thinking about what's important to you. What are your values? Who are your moose? Who are the
Yeah.
buyers? And how can you focus on them? Again, with a $1 million RV, we often say we don't want to start with the price. We don't want to lead with price, but you also have to use that price to disqualify, qualify. Are you prepared for a $5,000 a month payment? Things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
being honest and transparent is huge in building trust
Yeah, for
and
her, I'd
promise.
say the word integrity as well, based on what you said, just that high integrity part of her personal brand.
So yeah, so you listening, define your personal brand. How do you communicate that to the customer? You talk a lot about story. I believe in story because people learn through stories, everything from the Bible to, any presentation that you go to 3 days later. What do you remember? I'll guarantee you remember the stories better than the points.
Yep.
So tell stories, and I encourage you listening, look at your history. What stories do you have? I have a very famous story that goes back many years ago. I was one of the only women working for Walker Exhaust. I was selling a very glamorous product line, automotive mufflers and catalytic converters. So I'm obviously being sarcastic, but back in that uh, period of time, here I am selling a product I don't know anything about. So I was selling to distributors. I asked the distributor, who's a really great customer of yours, maybe a muffler shop, that I can contact and go in and ask to spend the day learning from their perspective what it's like to deal with our product. That has been gold through my career. I
Mm.
still use that story. I have the nickname Muffler Mama, which
Ah.
hopefully was an affectionate nickname. That set me apart. No other sales rep, male or female, and there were only just a few women, no one had ever done that. So,
Mhm.
what does that story represent? Obviously, I'm committed to learning about the product from the customer's perspective. And then I tell them, okay, with what I've learned, I want to share my knowledge with you and mesh the two together so that we can come up with something that will help you. So
Mm,
those
mm.
are two of the specific branding promises. Now you might not have a story. Well, go make one.
Yeah.
I've worked with salespeople and I say, have you ever been to the factory? Have you gone out in the factory floor? Well, no, I haven't really done that. Hey, create a story. Use a success story with a customer, like we talked about. If you can come up with dollars and cents, okay, this machine saved them on labor, on materials, on time. Here's a little chart explaining what that is.
Yeah, I'd
So
also
that's another
mention,
thing you
Kay,
can do.
another thing to add is I had the CRO from Tableau, former CRO, excuse me, on the show just a little over a month ago, and there's an episode on that. And then she became president of Gong.io, valued about $7 billion now. But we were talking about the importance of that personal story as well. And I know your book around Uncopyable You and personal branding. I'd encourage, I'm sure Katie's got a really incredible personal story. I think, yeah. In your book, you do highlight that, how she was shopping for automobiles one day, et cetera. But we were talking about just encouraging the development of your personal story, which should have the why that relates back to the buying experience that you're trying to create, where your buyer would see the relevance in that personal story.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point that the story isn't just, oh, I did this and that, and this is what happened. The story has to tie into what you want to do for
Mm,
the customer. So it's figuring out your values, what's important to you. It's having a story, whether it's yours or not. And then we talked a little bit beforehand. the know, like, and trust factor. We've talked about trust because if you don't trust someone, then you're not going to buy from them. And that to me is pretty simple. It's just following up on what you say you will do,
Mm,
being transparent. Bad news first is something that I talk with my clients about. There's never an advantage for staying silent because you're afraid. You don't want to tell them the truth. So I look at personal branding really as a recipe, and there are so many components. Those are three. And I'm going to say one more thing, then I want to hand it back to you. But
sure.
we all have a personal brand. And if you think of the brand, I've heard several people say this, so I'm not going to attribute it to anyone. It's
Hmm.
kind of a common saying. Your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So you can even ask people that know you, how would you describe my personal brand?
Mm,
Uh,
mm.
that's a great way to take an inventory or whatever, get an objective opinion on what you stand for, how people see you.
Kay, I'm just showing you on the screen right now. Could you highlight even just from a visual personal branding perspective what you've done? That's really impressed me. I interview so many different people as part of this show, but you show up. Your personal brand visually is just stunning. Can you talk about that and how people could think about just upping their game visually as part of their personal brand?
I totally can. That's a great question. And yes, if you're watching this, you notice one thing. Everything is orange. Our products are orange. Our books are orange. I'm wearing orange, even though one of my friends told me that I don't look that great in orange. And I said, too late. I'm all in on orange. It doesn't
Okay.
matter. But our new book, Uncopyable You, is how to create a personal brand that gets people to know you, to like you, to trust you. And this last word is so important. This last word, be memorable. You
Yeah,
want people to
remember. Yeah.
remember you. I've
Yes.
heard yes. You want to speak to that?
Oh, no, 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 I just completely agree that, being memorable is just so absolutely critical. That's what that's the ultimate.
Right, because they might know, like, and trust someone else. And
Mhm.
to be known and liked, I just go back to the Dale Carnegie book. If you think you can't be liked, all you have to do is read that book. That's all. And what it is instead of being interesting, be interested. So you do that. You compliment someone's children. You listen. What else are you interested in? Tell me. I want to understand more about your business.
Mm.
And then what salespeople are so bad about shutting their mouths, being quiet and just listening. So anyway, as far as the orange is an anchor. The orange means that people will remember us. In fact, we've gotten clients because someone has gone to I think it was an Astros game that their uniforms are orange. I can't remember, but we got a client who said, I saw that orange and I thought of you. So I have three things about me that if you look them up online, I'm the only person that shows up. So one is the word uncopyable. We've got that. That's our brand. We own it. I think there's some rock group or something that's very small time that has uncopyable.com. So we couldn't get it. But
Mm.
that word uncopyable, if you type that into Amazon, we're the only thing that comes up. I wear orange. I also have the nickname Muffler Mama. So I challenge you listening. What are three things that people can say about you that they can't say about anyone else?
Mm, mm.
And so that is really the memorable part. And there are other things that you can do to be memorable, but I would start there because you want people to remember you and you want to separate yourself from all the other choices that they have.
That's perfect. Well, Kay, you did give us just some ideas on how to get rolling here, and it is kind of coming up with those descriptive words, and also thinking about your values that you talked about as well. And that's what I was doing over the weekend, which fostered me to work on my personal branding statement again. And I must confess, in my opinion, and ChatGPT's and Claude's, I think we upped the game a little bit on my personal branding. But thanks to you and Steve's provocations from the book. As part of next steps, I'd love to recommend to the audience, definitely grab a copy of your book and use it, cuddle up with it on a weekend like I did. What else would you say, Kay, that people could think about?
Well, one thing as far as determining your personal brand, I like the idea of asking other people, "How do you see me?"
Yes.
So that is, really when it comes to right down to it. At the end of the day, which is such an overused phrase, I hate to use it, but at the end of the day, you need to be the package that they will choose. And I have so many examples, and you mentioned this too, that people won't always buy the cheapest product. They'll pay a premium. They won't even maybe buy the very best product.
Hmm.
In my first book, Uncopyable Sales Secrets, I quote a distributor salesperson. He's a man, but he says to his customers, "What is a lower price going to help do for you? What's a lower price going to do for you? How will that help you if you run out of product? Or if you have to carry so much inventory that your money is tied up in that?" So I think it's really analyzing your customers and again, the moose where they're coming from. One of our clients was selling to a market where several of the people he was working with, they wanted to retire. They wanted to sell the business. So how do you sell them on the value of buying new machinery? Well, what's the business going to be worth when you sell it? It's going to be worth more if you have updated equipment and, you have something that's efficient and will be, you know, irresistible to someone who wants to buy it. So as far as next steps, I know there's a fairly nebulous and a lot of things that you need to think about, but it really that part of it comes down to getting to know the customer and not asking, "What do you need?" You
Hmm.
can ask them, "What does a win look like to you?" And you can talk about, cost versus value. Okay, mine will the price is higher, but what will an inferior product do for you value-wise over the long term?
Absolutely. Yeah, too true, too true. And the greatest name of my firm, Kay, is Value Pros. The greatest value pros will connect those value dots and really help see more than just the kind of the base price of something. What's the value associated with that? One of our affiliates, he's former head of global value for SKF, selling ball bearings into manufacturing, and those ball bearings, at a minimum are 1.5 times the price of the next best alternative ball bearing for those manufacturing use cases. But believe me, they've gotten really good at showcasing, hey, it's not about price. It's about cost and what's it really costing you, the lifetime of a machine, and what's a good ball bearing doing for you, and all the services around that, et cetera. So, yeah, you really got, again, that's part of that, you know, driving that wonderful, uncopyable buying experience. Okay, let's wrap up here. I just want to encourage everybody, grab a copy of the book. It's just really well written. These guys write well. I promise you that. So you can grab it on Amazon. It's there. And connect with Kay on LinkedIn as well. Kay does write on LinkedIn and posts, and you'll want to be part of a just her stream and making sure you're keeping up with her because she's one of the thought leaders in the industry. So Kay, thanks so much for being on the show. Anything else you want to say before we part?
Yeah, I have one closing thought, and you're asking what can the listeners do right now? One exercise that I really like is to say, go to one of your customers, a customer that you work well with, that really values, has an acknowledged need for what you're selling, relates to you and understands what your value is, and say, why do you buy from me? I'd
Mhm.
like to know because I'm not the cheapest. I'm not maybe my product is good enough. Why do you buy from me in particular? And that's going to give you such great ammo to present your solution to other prospects in a way that they're going to say, yeah, those are valid points. I want to look at it like that too.
Yeah, I strongly encourage that. Outside in is what I call it, outside in insight. But yeah, invaluable. And Kay, I did do that as well. Went through what people had said about me on the personal brand per your provocation in the book over the weekend. So anyways, Kay, thanks so much for being part of the show. What a blessing. Thanks so much.
I really appreciate it, Bruce. Thank you.
That was an incredible conversation with Kaye Miller on creating an uncopyable buying experience. One of my biggest takeaways, people don't want to be sold to, but they do want help buying. And as Kaye pointed out, the best sellers aren't just offering products, they're creating experiences that build trust and make buying easy. If you want to take your personal brand and buying experience to the next level, grab Kaye's book, Uncopyable You. And for a hands-on approach, check out her free 5-day email series on personal branding at beUncopyable.com/5-emails. You can also connect with Kaye on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/MillerK and check out her Uncopyable Women in Business podcast at uncopyablesales.com/podcast. Have questions? Reach out to Kaye directly at k@beuncopyable.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to The Value Pro Show. And if you're feeling kind, please leave us a review so others can find and enjoy it too. Thanks for tuning in.